Namaskar everyone and welcome to the Gita Satsang. Let us start with the Prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let's chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramartanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः। यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुग्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये। रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकम्। With prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us start. So, in the previous satsang, we saw shlokas 11 to 14 of the 9th chapter. And in that, we discussed how Lord's actual nature, that he is supreme and everything belongs to him and he is omniscient and omnipotent. But there are people who are ignorant about this. They are fools. The Lord said that those who think me to be an ordinary human being and they don't realize my divine nature, they are Muda, Avajananti Mam Mudam. So these Muda, these ignorant ones, the fools, don't realize the true nature of Krishna. Then we ask the question that if that is the case, and Lord should come in his divine form, then really people will realize that he is the Supreme Lord. But then our eyes and senses have limited power, so we will not be able to perceive him if he comes in divine form. So out of lot of compassion for us, Lord has taken this human form so that we can relate to that human form and seek him. He is available and accessible to us as a refuge. Now, further, Lord said that those like this who are ignorant, they are people who have the tendencies of asuras and rakshasas. And such people, even if they do some yajna or puja or some pious activity, they are not going to get any benefit from it. Why? Because they don't realize, they don't accept that everything in this world belongs to the Lord, that he is Supreme Lord. They think he is just some human being with some great power, or they say he is a great yogi, but they don't accept that he is Supreme Lord. On the other hand, there are the godly souls, those with Daivi gunas, whom the Lord calls as Mahatmas. And they understand that he is the great Lord, and yet he has taken this human form as simple Krishna. And they are able to recognize his real nature, and always their bhakti is towards him. So, like the garland maker of Mathura or the fruit seller of Gokul, these are the people whom Lord calls as Mahatmas. And then finally, we saw in the 14th shloka, what are the actions that a bhakta performs? Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. These are the people, they are always doing kirtan of the Lord, they are glorifying Krishna, they are always striving to reach him with a lot of resolution, they are always prostrating to him out of devotion, and they want eternally to be in communion with him. All the time they are engaged in something or the other which gives them a way to adore him and to worship him. So we talked all these things up to the 14th shloka. Now we will go further and take from the 15th shloka onwards. So in the 15th shloka, Krishna tells Arjuna, Jnana yagnena chapyanye yajanto mamupasate ekatvena prithaktvena bahuda vishvato mukham. So now he's talking about another category of bhaktas. In the 14th 14th shloka, he told about bhaktas who offer worship to the Lord. They are constantly chanting his names, they are always prostrating before him, and so on. Now, Krishna says, other people are there who do all those things, but along with that, they also do Jnana Yajna. They are participating in the sacrifice of wisdom in the Jnana Yajna. And these are the people who understand and worship me as that one person who is characterized by diversity in various ways and is multiform. Somebody that they realize that I am the one who is there in everything. Although there are so many diverse things in this universe, that I am there in all of them, and I have multiple forms. So they are the people who do Jnana Yajna, and they also do all the other things. Now, those devotees who are mentioned in 14th shloka, who are always doing kirtan and namaskar to the Lord, they are the initial stages of sadhana bhakti. Now, people who are in this shloka they are mentioned, they do all those things, and along with that, they also perform jnana yajna. And such a person is said to be in the advanced stage of bhakti. Now, why Krishna is telling like this very specifically that these are the advanced bhaktas? Because sometimes there are some people who say that they will do jnana yajna. They will try to have more and more knowledge about the Lord. They will try to understand all the shastras, and through that they will try to attain the Lord. Now, there is a chance many times that people who go in this direction, they tend to feel that because I'm pursuing this jnana yajna, there is no need for me to do all those other things that other devotees are doing. I don't need to go to temple. I don't need to offer worship. I don't need to follow any anushtana. I don't need to do any vrata. They may think like that. So to caution against that mistake, Krishna is specifying that these are the people that they do jnana yajna, but they also do all these other things. Because here the acharyas say that who is the greatest jnani? Somebody who has jnana of the real swarupa of the Lord. So if that person has greatest jnana of the swarupa of the Lord, then he is going to melt when he listens to stories of Krishna. He will start shedding tears when he hears about the cheshtita, the leelas of Krishna. And unless somebody has this quality, then they, how much ever jnana they have, they cannot be called a bhakta unless they are the type who melt and cry listening to Krishna Leelas. So, this is why it is told very importantly that we should do Sankirtana and all those things, along, even if we are doing Jnana Yoga, if we are following this Jnana Yajna. Now, this kind of a bhakta, he worships the Lord as one, and he knows that he has one form of the Lord whom he worships, but he realizes that this Lord is the one who is there in everything in this world. Whatever forms are there in this universe, the Lord is the one who is there in all of them. When the word Vishwato Mukham is used, what the Acharyas explain is that everything in this world is the body of the Lord. Just like in us, in this particular human form that I have taken, there is a Jivatma within the Sharira. Like that, everything in this universe, the Chit Vastu, the Achit Vastu, the sentient beings, the non sentient beings, everything are like the Sharira for the Lord. And this kind of a devotee is able to see the Lord everywhere and in everything. Like all the objects in this world, all the people in this world are separate. But this kind of devotee can see the Lord everywhere. And this is the person who has reached the ultimate stage of bhakti. And this is real jnana yajna. What? To contemplate in this manner on the Lord, to have the jnana that the Lord is what is present. The Lord is the one who is present in everything and every being in this universe. So those are the real jnanis. So here if we take the examples, like we all know the story of how Adi Shankaracharya composed the famous Bhaja Govindam. So at that time, how did he compose that? What happened actually? He was walking and going along the road somewhere, and he saw one person who was an old pandit, and that old pandit was struggling really very hard, to the extent that you can say he was trying to, stand on his head and memorize certain Sanskrit grammar rules. So when Adi Shankaracharya saw him, he was appalled at this. He said, "What is this? What is the use? All these rules of grammar will not save you. Instead, you should spend your name in singing the name of Govinda. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Moodhamate. O Moodha, you please sing Bhaja Govindam, sing the glories of Govinda. Okay, you do bhajan of Govinda's name. Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrinkarane. Dukrinkarane was that particular grammar thing what that person was trying to memorize. So at the time when you have to leave this world and go, at the most opportune moment, at that time, this dukrinkarane rules that you are learning will not save you. It is only the names of Govinda that will be your refuge. So like that, now we say Adi Shankaracharya, he had so much of jnana, and yet he realized that only having that jnana is not going to be of any use. It is important to sing the glories of Govinda. Similarly, the other example we can see here is Swami Nammalvar. Nammalvar was one of the greatest devotees of Lord, and in fact, in all the writings and all, our acharyas have glorified him, saying that he is Krishna Bhakti itself in a human form. So that was the greatness of Nammalvar. He is called Krishna Krishna Tattva. So he was so fond of Krishna. And when he was singing in that Divya Prabandhas, when he was singing about the Leelas of the Lord, at one point of time, he sang about the Damodar Leela, which is otherwise called as Ukhal Bandhan Leela, where Krishna, Yashoda tied him up to that mortar, to the grinding mortar, and then the rope was short, then she struggled, and finally he let her tie him up. So, thinking of the how much Saulabhya this Lord has, how accessible he is Sarveshwara, and he has yet taken this human form, and now he is a small baby, and this person who controls the entire universe, this Sarvavyapi, this Sarvashaktiman Lord, has allowed himself to be tied up by one ordinary cowherd woman. What is the greatness of this Lord? He thought about that and he fainted, thinking of this quality of the Lord. How much compassion does this Lord have? He couldn't believe that. And in that emotional state, he fainted and he did not recover consciousness for 6 months. That was the greatness. Now, this Nammalvar, he is a great jnani. He has sung in whatever prabandhas he has sung. All the concepts which are there in Vedanta, which are there in the Upanishads, are sung by him in the Tamil language. And that is what they call as the Dravida Veda. So that has all the Vedantic knowledge. And yet, he had so much jnana, but where did that jnana culminate? Where did it end finally? It all led to bhakti, to the devotion to the Lord's feet. So that is what is important for us to understand from this shloka. That you may do jnana yajna, but what is the real jnana yajna? Understanding the true swarupa of the Lord and being able to see Him and His presence in everything in this universe. That is what is the goal that we should have. Okay, now we will move on. Krishna talks in the next 16, 17, 18, 19 shlokas. He's going to talk about what all he is, that to convince that now he has said that I am in everything and everything is in me and everything in this universe, I am the one who is there in that. So now he is giving us some examples. So 16 and 17 shloka we will take together, then we will take 18 shloka. So in 16 and 17 shlokas he says, Aham kraturaham yajnaha स्वदाहमहमौषधं मन्त्रोऽहम् अहमेवाज्यम् अहम् अग्निरहं हुतं पितामहस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामहः पिताहम् अस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कार ऋक्सामयजुरेव च. So he says, I am Kratu, I am Yajna, I am Swadha, the offering to the mains, to the ancestors. I am the herbs, I am the mantra, I am the ghee or clarified butter, I am the fire, and I am only the act of offering all this into the Agni. Then he says, I am the father, I am the mother, I am uh, the midwife. Midwife means anything connected for one soul to take birth, whoever has been assisting in that process. And grandfather of this universe. So he says, I'm everything in this universe. He's trying to convey that he is only all our relations. He is the object of knowledge. He is the purifier. I am the syllable Om, and I am only Rigveda, Samaveda, and Yajurveda. So here Krishna is very nicely breaking down each thing and telling. When he says I am Kratu, Kratu refers to all the sacrifices, all the yajnas which are specified in the Vedas. There are some specific homas which are there. There is some Vayav Yajna, there is some Jyotish Homa. Like that, there are different sacrifices specified. I am only all those yajnas. That is what he means by saying I am Kratu. Then he says, I am Yajna. Now, when he says Yajna, what he's referring to is these fivefold daily sacrifices, the Panchamaha Yajna, which everybody is supposed to do every day. If you have heard of the concept of the rinas, the debts that we owe to our ancestors, to the rishis, to the gods, the deities, then to other human beings, and to all beings around us. So, to overcome those debts, we are supposed to do certain activities every day. Like to honor the rishis, we should do study of the scriptures. Then to honor the devatas, we do yajnas, we make offerings into the Agni. Then for the Pitru, we do tarpan, we do all the Shraddha activities and so on. Then for Manushya, to overcome our debt to the human beings, we have to do Atithi Seva. Whoever comes as a guest, we have to call people to our house, we should serve them food. And Bhuta Yajna means we should show compassion, we should serve food if required, we should provide shelter if required for even animals and other beings. So, this is what Lord means by saying that I am Yajna. So, whatever we do all this, He is only the one who is receiving all of it. I am Swadha. Swadha means he refers to the offerings which are made to the ancestors. So, as I said, when we do Shraddha Karya, when we do Pitra Tarpana, at all those points, whatever we are offering, all those, Lord is saying, I am only those offerings. Then, whatever grains you are putting into the fire, I am only those grains, I am only those herbs. Whatever mantra is being chanted at the time of making the offering, I am only that mantra. Then I am only ghee which you are pouring into the Agni. When he says ghee, he means whatever else is offered. If there are those samhit which are put inside, if there is something else which is offered to the Agni, all those things, I am only that. And the Agni itself, that ritualistic Vedic fire which we are building up, I am only that fire. And your act of offering something into the Agni, that action of offering also, I am only that. So what Krishna is trying to say, in other words, is that he has told that I am in everything and everything in this universe is made up of me. And he wants people to understand that. So here he is actually breaking it down and telling that even if you think that you are doing this yajna, then everything in that, I am only the one. I am only there in all of that. So that is what he is trying to explain in this shloka. Then he says, I am the mother, I am the father, I am saying, I am the grandfather, I am whoever has assisted in the birth. What does he mean by this? He's trying to say that if people in this universe, for everybody, if I am the relation and I am the father, mother, and all that, then there is nobody in this world who is an orphan, right? Normally, we use the word in Hindi and other many other Indian languages. Somebody is an orphan, we say anath. Anath means somebody who does not have a father. So, in the sense that Nath could refer to the father. But who is actually the Nath? Who is actually the Lord? It is Krishna. It is Lord Sriman Narayana. So, when he is there and he is actually the relation, we think we have this mother, this father in this birth, right? And they have given birth to us, they have brought us up, and we feel grateful to them. And that is correct. We should feel that. But these parents, we have only had them for whatever is our life, whatever, how many ever years we are old in this life, that many years we have known them. But through countless janmas, whatever may be the different forms that we had taken, whether we don't know, we were human before, we were animals, we may have been birds, we may have been some plants, whatever we may have been, the Lord was always there with us in those births also. So He is actually our relation. He is the one who is there for everybody. So there is actually nobody anath in this world. For everyone, whether they have worldly parents or not, they are all protected and cared for by the Lord. So He is the one who is there for everybody. Then He says that whatever concepts are explained in the Vedas, I am that. Then he says, I am Om, I am the sacred syllable. Because Om here is said to be the essence of everything in the Vedas. And not only the words which are there in the Vedas, but the meanings of all that also. He is only that. And everything in this universe is the Lord's body. And He resides in all of it in an antaryami form. He is there within each and everything in this universe. So, holding on to this thought, we should feel very protected. Many times we think that we are alone, or we think that there is some great task to be done. We wonder, how will we manage this? How will I do it? Um, there's a very beautiful story here which is told that actually this we have talked before about Andal, right? So her father was called Periyalvar. He was also one of the Alvars, and he is the one who brought up Andal with so much bhakti towards Ranganatha. So this Periyalvar, in when he was living in this place called Srivilliputtur, and he had a beautiful garden where he was growing flowers and tulsi, and he would make lovely garlands and submit them to the Lord, and that was his Kainkariya. That was his seva every day. Now, once there was some competition there was a kind of a debate or a contest where the king of that place wanted that somebody should come and be able to establish who is the supreme Lord. So, like that, there were many great scholars and all who went and they talked, but the Lord was not, but the king was not satisfied by any of their explanations. Finally, one day in the Lord, in this Periyalvar's dream, the Lord appeared and he said, "You should go and you should do this." At that time, the Lord said, when the Lord told him this Periyalvar said, "Oh no, how can I do that? I don't know anything. I have not studied any Shastras. I am just a poor Brahmana who is here in this temple and I am doing seva of making garlands for you. So, how will I know? I am not at all capable of all that. All those things I don't know. Only thing I know is to make garlands." So, at that time, it is told by the Acharyas that the Lord actually laughed and he said, "Okay, so you think that the study of the Shastras and all that you have not done. So you're saying you are not capable for all that. And you have this great feeling that whatever mala you are making, whatever flowers you are growing, all that you think you are doing by yourself. Is it your own capacity that you are doing all that? And you don't have capacity to do the debate there in the court, indicating that even that capacity to make the mala, to grow the flowers, to worship the Lord, also that Lord only has given, isn't it? So, like that, many times, even great alvars have at times been corrected by the Lord. So, what we try to understand from here is that many times we don't realize. We may try, but it is very difficult for us to remember that everything in this world is of the Lord. Everything that is happening is by His will. And everywhere, He is there always with us. And He is the one who is giving us the capacity to do whatever it is that we are doing. When we feel that there is something we can do, we are confident of it, then we don't remember Him. And we don't think and understand that He is the one who has given us that confidence. When it is time to do something which we are scared of, then we become aware, then we pray and we say that, "Oh Lord, you please be with me. Oh Lord, you please bless me. Oh Lord, you please take care of this for me." We do that. But if it is something that is very familiar and we are doing it all the time, then we tend to take it for granted and we get the feeling of doership, that we are the one who are doing it. So we must remember at all times that as Krishna is telling in these shlokas, he is only the one who is responsible for everything. He is there in everything. He is residing within everything. Everything in this universe is made up of Him. And He is the one who is seated within us also from multiple janmas. He is the one who is always there protecting us. So that remembrance we have to carry with us. Then, in the 18th shloka, he continues further. He says, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Suhrid Prabhava Pralayasthanam Nidanam Bijamavyayam. So he says, I am the goal, I am the supporter, I am the Lord, I am the witness, I am the abode, I am the refuge, and I am the friend of the universe. Then he says, I am also the seed from where origin, what the act of creation, and where dissolution happens. I am also that which is preserved, and I am also the one who is imperishable. So, like this, he continues to tell about his glories. So, when he's saying, I am the goal, what does he mean? Whatever places we wish to attain, whatever sthana we want to attain, whatever are the objects of our desire, whatever is the ultimate state to which we all want to reach, to which all the paths lead, that goal is the Lord. Then he says, I am Bharta. Normally, the word Bharta is used to indicate the husband. The actual meaning of that word is somebody who is the supporter, the one who supports. So, because the husband is supposed to support the wife, he is called Bharta. So, supporter here, when the Lord is saying, I am the Bharta, then he means he is the one who supports the entire universe. I am the one who is the Lord. So, I am the one who commands. I am the one who rules this universe. I am the witness. I am the one who perceives all that is happening. So, whether we think that some human being is seeing us or not, we may try to hide from people, but we can never hide from the Lord because He is the witness, He is the Sakshi. Then, when He says abode, He means all the living places, all the places where one may reside, all those places are He only. Then He says, I am Sharanam, I am the refuge. I am the one whom everybody has to seek, whether it is because they want to attain their desires or because they want to avoid evils. Whatever be the goal, whatever be the aim of the person, the Lord is only the refuge for everybody. Then he says, I am Suhrad. I am the one who is your friend. I am the one who desires your welfare. Then he says, I am the point where both creation and dissolution take place. So whether it is Srishti or it is Pralaya, everything is happening by the Lord's will. Then at the time of Pralaya, everything is supposedly destroyed. Everything perishes. And yet there is something which is not perishable. That seed, that imperishable seed is the Lord. And that which is preserved, that means that imperishable seed which did not get destroyed, that is the Lord. And from that new creation, new Srishti starts again. Then again that gets dissolved. So in this entire process of creation and dissolution, again it is happening because of the Lord only. So like this, the Lord has explained how He is there in everything, how He is everything, and every single action that we do also, He is there in that. So the real Jnani is the one who understands this. The real Jnani is the one who is able to grasp this Swarupa of the Lord. And such people will be not content with only the jnana, but they will also have deep devotion, which will make them to sing the glories of the Lord. So we may not have the great jnana, but at least we can do singing of the glories of the Lord. We can do kirtan. And by doing that kirtan repeatedly, somewhere we will start developing this kind of jnana also. So with that, we come to the end of our topic for today. Let us offer Kritagnyata, gratitude at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru. Let us thank them for inspiring us to start this satsang, to join this satsang. Let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Thank you for attending, and we will meet again. Most possibly next week we will have it on Saturday only again instead of Friday. As I'm going to be traveling, so I don't know, Friday I will reach very late, I suppose. So we will have the satsang next Saturday again. Thank you. Thank you, Zarnaji. Okay. Namaskar.